Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. It's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. And we're talking to JoJo
Kalita, yes.
Kalita.
Yes.
I messed that one up, sorry. JoJo Kalita. How you doing, young lady?
I'm very well, Michael. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. JoJo is going to have to tell you what she does for a living because I tried to write that down and my shorthand is too short for this. So do me a favor, tell everybody what you do.
It's quite a mouthful, but I am the vice president of partnerships and Actoverse at Acto. Acto is a intelligent field excellence platform. So essentially, we work with pharmaceutical, life science companies, medtech companies to really support and enable their sales teams and MSLs to have really impactful conversations with doctors, hospitals. So a lot of rigorous compliance, but also great relationship building and strategy. My role there is to build partnerships, globalize our mission, in which we're bringing on industry experts and really pushing that mission forward.
Awesome. So if I'm not mistaken, you help the people that deal with doctors deal with them better and help them as much as I love people that help doctors. I think doctors are heroes for a living, to be completely honest with you, and any support is well needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that oftentimes, unless you're really in this industry, we don't think about is how overworked doctors are. So they really have limited time to do any type of research discovery, which is really where those sales reps come into play. And their role is quite important because they're teaching essentially the doctor about these life-saving medications or new techniques moving forward to implement into the patient field. So quite impactful, and Acto is really proud to be a part of that mission.
Awesome. You also said something a little bit earlier that kind of got my attention off camera. You study emotional intelligence.
Yes. So my mother always told me, go to school for business, get a business degree. I told my mom I would definitely not be in business. I went to school for English and psychology. Somehow through a weave and path, I've ended up in the technology sector. But I do think emotional intelligence plays a massive part in any industry you're in, any type of work you do, and even down to the day-to-day interactions that you have with people.
Agreed. How would you say that it's most impactful for emotional intelligence? And I can say that I love the emotional intelligence part of what I do, and it's work in progress. I like that smile, so you can tell where I'm going with this.
I think it always is. One of the things that made me really aware of emotional intelligence was when I was receiving feedback years ago from one of my managers, and I could just feel my insides burning. And I was just so upset because I was taking it as criticism. And when I really stepped back and replayed the interaction in my head, I was like, this person doesn't have ill intentions. They're not coming down on me. They're giving me points and feedback that I can use, engage with, and then, optimize how my capacity in my role, how I'm engaging with other people. So I really took that and took it for what it was, which kind of opened the door for other ways that I'm interacting with people. Like maybe if I'm giving somebody else feedback, they feel the same way, and that's not my intention at all. So let me understand how this person likes to receive feedback, what their communication style is. If maybe I'm rambling on for 20 minutes and their communication style is concise 5-minute conversations, I need to adjust to that. So I think it helps in personal, business, all around relationships.
I can't agree more with that statement. I found that emotional intelligence is lacking in this world a lot. And we were talking and any tips and tricks that you could give our listeners to be better at emotional intelligence?
I think don't ignore body language. I know we live in a quite virtual world right now. So even through Zoom, those conversations, you can kind of tell if somebody is disengaged or engaged. If you start seeing somebody become more disengaged, this might sound a little harsh, but people love talking about themselves. Turn the topic over back to them, give them the spotlight for a second, ask questions, and build a rapport. I know with psychology and emotional intelligence, there's bits and pieces that sound quite manipulative, if I can say that, but it really—
You can say that. It's honest.
Say that. It's a little true. I think psychology to its core is slightly manipulative, but it's manipulative for the right reasons. Again, relationships are at the core of everything, especially in business, especially in your path forward. So if you can establish a good relationship with somebody, and that means you give them the spotlight or give them an opportunity to share more about themselves, it's a small trade-off.
Yeah, I concur wholeheartedly. Another trick someone said to get trust with somebody is to admit something negative about yourself. I'm horrible with names. And they're like, oh, and it seems to endear people. They watch.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with names, really great with faces. I can see you 10 years from now. I'm like, hey, I saw you in a podcast a while ago. Who are you?
Yeah.
When
That
it comes to
or like
names and stuff.
A common underliner. I'm obsessed with my dog. So anytime I hear somebody has a pet, I always remember their pet name. I might not remember their name, but I'll be like, hey, how's Lulu today?
So you're great with pet names. That's awesome. So what kind of animal you got?
I have a rescue pit bull, but he does not know he's a pit bull. He is the biggest baby ever.
I love pit bulls. I've had 2 of them. They are the greatest dogs on the planet.
Truly are.
The only problem is they think they're lap dogs and they're 60 to 80 pounds.
That is exactly my dog. And thankfully he's somewhere taking a nap. Otherwise he would be trying to crawl in my lap as we have this conversation. So maybe next time.
That'd be awesome. If we do it again, I love Staffies. Staffies are really the best.
So cute.
Doing what you do, I'm sure there's been a lot of challenges in your career. I mean, healthcare changes, new laws. What is one of the biggest challenges you've had, and how have you overcome it?
So I would say, Michael, I think right now we're in this nebulous, unknown state, especially with AI entering every facet of our lives. Historically, healthcare, life sciences, pharma is all so highly regulated, and now they're trying to grasp this concept of AI, which it's almost this black box of information where nobody really knows where this information is pulling from, but some people inherently trust that it's the right answers, the right informations. Other people are like, this is absolutely going to replace us. So right now it's a unique balance of finding ways to educate people and then also implement AI in ethical and empathetic ways, which has been an interesting journey. The way that we're approaching it is really education, also working with policymakers. We're really understanding the ins and outs of AI. And if anybody says they're an AI expert, do not believe them. There is no such thing. AI is changing every single day. But we do think, and I personally think, it's going to have a massive positive impact on every industry and our world as a whole if it's used correctly.
Agreed, 100%, if it's used correctly. I think people have to realize, I guess the prompts is the biggest problem. I have a friend of mine that says, I'm at, I think he said like 15 or 20% body fat. And I'm like, I go, who told you that? And he said, AI. He took a picture of himself and put it in AI. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it's ChatGPT is a chatbot, so it wants to tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. And in a very friendly way. It's an enabler. It's your tech enabler.
It's an enabler. That's the key. It's an enabler. You're 100% right.
Yes.
It wants to be your friend, so it'll tell you what you want to hear. Exactly.
Whatever idea you feed it, it'll tell you that's great. Let me show you 20 ways of how you can implement this terrible idea. Good job. So you have to be very mindful and aware of what you're asking and that information that's being output to you.
So do you see people how do I put this? People coming out with a negative condensation because AI does have all the information, right? And so when you ask it health questions about yourself, AI might not know your total situation. Your chat GPT will say whatever I think Google has one now. But any of the AIs you talk to and you want to ask it health information and it doesn't know you fully like a doctor does, can that be dangerous to the advice it gives you and you taking it?
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the big missing pieces of context is your medical history, the medications that you're taking, things that you've experienced in the past. Any advice will impact people differently. So, for example, one of the ways that I've leveraged ChatGPT, going back to my dog, recently, unfortunately, he had to go through a procedure. He's fine, but we got the lab results back. And as you can imagine, there are lab results with the findings, and I had no idea how to read this, certainly a language way outside of my scope, but I was able to copy and paste that, give the ChatGPT a bit of context around my dog's age, what procedure was done, and just said, write these back to me in a summary that makes sense for me and my general understanding. And it did that. So all good, all clear. But again, it's not only about the missing context that AI might have, but it's also about how you prompt it to answer, right? Because even if you say focus on me solely, it doesn't have your medical history, so we can't tell you anything directly.
What's said, I heard a prompt that was fantastic, and it was something to the effect of, "You can't lie to me ever. So whatever you tell me has to be true." And the AI is like, "Okay."
That's probably why they switched to the newer version of it, right? They're like, they got us.
They got to stop telling people you're 15% body fat and you're not. He does it. I can't say his name because I swear he'll fly in and kill me. If someone listening wants to get better at what you do in your industry, what suggestions, what tips and tricks would you give them?
Yeah, I love this question. First and foremost, learn as much as you can possibly learn. Listen to podcasts, go through courses, read books, but most importantly, talk to people that are in a position that you'd like to be in, understand their experience, and give yourself a little bit of patience and grace. Obviously, nothing is built overnight. There's always setbacks, troubles, and roadblocks that you have to face. But if you are really working towards your goals, you have a set plan and you're willing to put that time and work in, it eventually does pay out. I'm a big believer in work hard, those results will come. But learning is number one. You can probably see I have a massive stack of books here and all around my house. I often go to my CEO for book recommendations and just soak up as much as I can to really expand my knowledge, because of course, all I talk about is emotional intelligence, right? I want to talk about tech too.
Emotional intelligence, I love it too, and I absolutely love. Can I give you a quick story of how I learned it?
Yes, please.
So I practice martial arts, and at green belt you start fighting, and when you're a green belt, there's always someone better. I can guarantee you that. And then you go in with the plan of the fight, and then you get hit in the head, and everything goes out the window. And you have to learn to stay calm in the storm. Is where I've learned emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that's the first thing to go out the window when you're in a panic situation, right? Yeah, 100%.
Your IQ too, I think it's 20% drop as soon as you
Yes.
get.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in fight or flight mode, and that's
Right.
the only thing is survival, and that's whatever way that you can do that is what your body is leaning towards.
So what in one of those situations, what would you how would you recommend somebody to regain their emotional intelligence? There's a good question for you.
That is a great question. Pausing. I mean, obviously, probably not in a martial arts fight. I would not suggest to pause.
Pausing can be detrimental to your facial structure.
Maybe don't pause in that situation, but in the midst of an interaction, what I like to say to regain my composure, I mean, you have to practice this, practice your stoic, gracious face, and then say, give me a second to reflect on that so I can answer you correctly. That way you can do whatever you need to do in your head. Some people like to count down backwards. I don't. I like to visualize myself taking deep breaths in my head. And then I kind of come back to the composure. And again, just removing yourself. A lot of the time, that conversation is not really, if it's a negative one, it's usually not specifically geared towards you. There's a bigger picture of frustration that's driving this contention. So I try to picture myself breathing, remove myself from being directly the target, and then come back with hopefully a thoughtful answer. Oh.
All right, Jojo. Here's a good question for you. So, how do you regain your emotional intelligence when you're in a stressful situation?
That is a good question. So I think one of the ways that I really like to use is just pausing. Don't pause if you're in the middle of a martial arts fight. Obviously,
Could
that's
be
not
detrimental to your facial structure.
definitely don't do that. But in any other scenario, again, like face to face or a virtual, it's appropriate certainly to say, give me a minute to reflect on that. I want to provide a thoughtful response to either your concern, your question, whatever that is. And that's where I really just do take a second and try to and visualize myself breathing in my own head. Again, removing myself. A lot of the time, the contention that's there isn't directed right at you, or maybe you're not even the root of the problem. There's a bigger scenario which is causing some frustration. So trying to remove any personal feelings that I have towards that. And then also, like, what would you want to hear in that moment? What would make you as a person, your response mellow out a little bit? And then usually I try to give hopefully a thoughtful response back and continue the conversation. People just want to feel heard at the end of the day. So I want to pause, put myself back in a place where I can listen instead of react, and then get back into the conversation.
I like that you pause, take a breath, and then what you. I like that. I like that a lot. Take a second to answer the question. The people that I respect the most do that the most.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes we just want to unfiltered response, and usually that's not the best response. Even in my emails, sometimes I'll jot something down and I look at it and I'm like, yep, I need a second before I hit send. This is probably not going to be read the way that I want it, or it's going to be read exactly the way I want it. And it might not drive a
Either or might be bad.
Exactly.
I like that. And other good advice, the other best advice you gave is when you respond as if you were the other person. What would you want to hear? That is a great trick. I like that. I like that a lot. So, Jojo, has there been a book or a podcast that's really changed it for you?
Not related specifically to this topic. I think I've extensively picked pieces of a lot of different books, a lot of different podcasts. But there are a few books that really have shaped how I see myself in business and how I see my path forward, there's a book called From Good to Great. And then there's also another great book called Monetizing Innovation. Highly recommend it to any entrepreneurs there that are either building products or solutions, or even just general items for consumption. It's a great way to monetize your vision. It's exactly that. It's take a great idea and earn money for it. So I would say those two are highly recommended.
Awesome. Quick question for you. Sounds like things are going pretty well for you in the industry. Have you ever done any passive income, created income without doing so much work?
No, I haven't, other than investing, of course, but not anything that's actively passive income, if that makes sense.
Well, that's okay. I'd like to try and give all our listeners some tips and tricks on how to better their life, and a lot of people struggle on that. Passive income is possible, but it's hard. It's something to do, and it's hard to do. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with the hard ones. Here's another one's pretty easy for you though. Everything. Yeah, thanks a lot for the podcast. You're doing a great job. What do you got planned for the next 6 to 12 months? What's next for you?
6 to 12 months. So continuous travel. I'm sure there's a lot of travel involved in my role, which is great. However, as you can imagine, there's a lot of work behind that. But what the mission right now is really spreading Acto's vision for the future of healthcare. I work with extremely talented and amazing people that have came together to really push the right vision and mission forward. So honestly, full commitment there, and growing in my role, growing as a person, continued learning. And I know probably a lot of people say this, but becoming the best version of me.
No, not a lot of people say that. Done a few hundred podcasts, and being the best version of you is rare. A lot of people shoot for their goals, but that's a good goal to have.
Yes, hopefully every year is better than the previous one. That's always the goal.
That's a good goal. The last question before we let you go: what if you could go back to your 20s, early 20s now? Unless you're 20 now, then it doesn't matter. If you go back to your early 20s, knowing everything you know now, what would you do different, and what would you do the same?
Ooh, that's a great question. What I would do different is pace myself, because I think sometimes when you're starting out in your career or fresh in your career, you take on everything that you can to, especially as a woman in business, you take on everything you can to prove value and show that you deserve a seat at the table. And I've went through my 20s burning myself out multiple times. So I would probably give myself a bit of grace and learn how to say, no, that's not part of my role at times. What I would do the same is have the same tenacity and drive, and sometimes knocking on the door doesn't work. Sometimes you have to give it a little nudge or a shove.
Throw a shoulder into it.
And yeah, I would do the same. I would have the same approach with that.
Gotcha. All right, beautiful. That's awesome. Well, listen, if somebody would want to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm always open to conversations. It's just my first name and my last name, JoJo Kalita. I think I'm one of one, hopefully.
Good for you.
My virtual door is always open.
Awesome. Well, listen, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. I do appreciate it. You've given a lot of great information. I love your advice on, calming down. First off, breathing, taking a second. It's huge. A lot of people don't get that. And if you have that second, you're at a better advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And for everybody else, thanks for watching or listening on whatever platform you use. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification button on the bottom. We do appreciate it. Thank you, JoJo.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.